Okay, I've had a question posed to me. My name is Gardner Goldsmith, and I have lived in New Hampshire most of my life. I'm a radio host here. I spent some time out in Los Angeles and script writing at a TV show Star Trek Voyager, and also worked at the Outer Limits. And I write political, economic essays and things like that for places like the Von Mises Institute and so on. So,
plug your book.
Oh, my book, yes, thanks. I can plug my book. It is called Live Free or Die, and it's essays on individual liberty by New Hampshire libertarians. My father is also involved in the book. He died in 2003, but I have a lot of his writing inside it. And there's a lot of information about New Hampshire history. There's information about world and state, national politics, and a lot of short fiction as well for people who aren't really into politics. So you can find it on Amazon. It's called Live Free or Die. Okay, so the question has been posed to me. Why do I support Ron Paul? And why should people who support Ron Paul, who live outside the state of New Hampshire, decide that they want to come to New Hampshire? Well, the reason I support Ron Paul is that for years I have been disappointed with the non-option within the two major parties of picking between the voices. It's a cliche, it's a classic cliche, and it's absolutely true. And the Republican Party has basically thrown away any support that it used to have from people who believe in individual liberty and the United States Constitution. I frankly don't even think the U.S. Constitution went far enough. I think the Articles of Confederation would have been fine. I'm more of an anarcho-capitalist. I think private association can do things fine. But if these politicians are going to run for an office which was created by the Constitution connoting how the government is constituted, one would think that they would uphold their oath to adhere to the U.S. Constitution and defend it, but they don't. The only person who has been Ron Paul. Ron Paul has consistently shown me that he's a man of principle who actually adheres to his word. Never votes for tax increases. Tries to stick as closely to what the original founders of this country wanted. Federalism, individual liberty, in as many areas as possible, decreasing the size of the federal government, not just maintaining the federal government as it is, as the Republicans would want.
You look at guys like Kevin, other people here, and these are the people who are making the Republican Party apparatchiks very nervous. And the reason they're making them very nervous is because these are people of principle, not a political gamesmanship. For the past 10 years in the state of New Hampshire, the Republican Party hierarchy has been very, very strongly tied to the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. And what we've seen, just like in Washington, is the Republican Party, to which many people who used to believe in freedom, particularly in New Hampshire, because it was a much more libertarian-type party, they have been sold out time and time and time again for political expediency's sake. For the immediate situation, well, we've got to get elected, so we've got to compromise. We're going to work. What do? They compromise away the state constitution. They compromise away local control over things like education and taxes. They compromise individual liberty. So what I love is gatherings like this where Ron Paul comes in and you see the amount of money that a guy like Ron Paul gets in a day. You see banners and posters going up all over the place. You see on my radio show consistently phone call after phone call after phone call when we have a guest associated with Ron Paul or we have Dr. Paul on. The phones are like mercury. They're moving so fast. And all of a sudden you realize this is bothering the Republican hierarchy. And I like that. That is a beautiful thing. People, and I'm going to name a name, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago before the camera was on, people like a guy named Tom Pratt, who has been the puppet master that Heinlein would have warned us about. He He's been pulling the strings on all the marionettes in the political parties for the longest time. He's a lobbyist and attorney here. He's an RNC member. Always goes down and does things down with the Washington, D.C. crowd. They are connected to the Washington, D.C. people. They have always been of the mindset of, well, we get the big names in from Washington, and then all the underlings flock. Well, all of a sudden, there's some people who are coming from the underground, from the grassroots, the real grassroots, and they're causing a campaign to flourish with their own money, their own individual cash donations, and their own time, like Ernie coming up from Arizona. He went out to California. He's been really involved out on the West Coast, so we've got a similar thing happening on the West Coast. And the best thing about it is it makes the Republicans nervous. Hey man, you got camera on camera. Very good. So what we got to think about, I think what we got to think about is think about the polls. The polls don't reflect Ron Paul's popularity because they typically are registered Republicans, registered Democrats, not undeclared, not independents. So he's going to do better. But we can't just count on this. What we need to do is continue to frustrate these guys. And to me, it's really easy because they drive me nuts so much. So why not give them a little irritation? So more power to the Ron Paul campaign here in New Hampshire. If anybody is watching this from outside New Hampshire, continue to do what you can outside the state. We're going to try to get Ron Paul right up there in the first tier at the end of this, and I think it's going to surprise people. And just by the way, if you watched the McLaughlin group, 2 weeks ago on the McLaughlin group, Eleanor Clift, with whom I would never agree on virtually anything, Eleanor Clift actually said the story that's going to come out of the New Hampshire primary is going to be Ron Paul's placement at the end of it. Thumbs up, sister.
Ron Paul is the kind of person who believes in allowing people to make decisions for themselves. He understands free market economics. I mean, for goodness sake, the guy actually mentioned Ludwig von Mises' name on The Tonight Show. You can't beat that. Maybe he gave Johnny Rotten a copy of, well, I don't know, Human Action, just to thumb through on their tour. That'd be fun. So, if you are a supporter of Ron Paul, you know how difficult it is to fight the party establishments in your state. You may come from outside New Hampshire. New Hampshire has changed just like so many of those other states. But we started at a place of relative freedom that was much higher than in many other states. With the infusion of the Free State Project members, I've just been incredibly gratified because the Free State Project members, many of them are so involved in politics here in trying to influence state legislators and educate them about freedom and individual liberty and allowing free association, free economics, lifting regulations, decreasing taxes, that they're having an effect that goes far beyond their numbers. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, not last year, unfortunately the bill passed last year, but 2 years ago, because the Free State Project members got involved, they stopped a smoking ban in private establishments. The state legislature got within one vote, and these people showed up at our state house with their little name tags that they made, written themselves with their names on them, trying to talk to the legislators to say, you know, the sanctity of private property and choice are so important here. And all the other lobbyists who are there, they're paid. They get thousands of dollars a year. They wear little orange name tags. And it struck me how influential and how nice it is to see people volunteering their time to come in and try to stop government from stepping on people's toes. And if you believe that Ron Paul represents that sort of ideology for you, and he's a lightning bolt, and a lightning rod, I should say, for that sort of idea, then I recommend that either while the Ron Paul campaign is going on or afterwards, you think about joining people who are philosophically inclined with you. You can find no greater bond than coming to a restaurant like where we are right now, a bar, and seeing 20 people who all believe in freedom. It's awesome. And personally, from the bottom of my heart, from a guy who grew up in New Hampshire and saw that embodied in New Hampshire years ago, we've needed it for a long time. So if you're a supporter of Ron Paul, and you believe in the Ron Paul campaign, you believe he's a man of integrity, who sticks up to his word, and believes in the good neighbor policy of the golden rule, treat others as you would be treated, then think about coming to New Hampshire, because you have a lot of good neighbors.